Hello class, I wanted to give you one more video on starting to create your menu, maybe putting a little more thought into your menu. Now there'll be a number of tutorials that mention navigation throughout the next couple weeks, and that would be CSS navigation in addition to images, using images for your navigation, creating these nav bars. Dreamweaver does have some built-in nav bar functions. We may eventually use those, but right now I want to just give you an introduction to that topic and a few things that might help you on the current project. So let's take a look at a few websites here. So when I talk about the menu or the navigation, I'm referring to how the user is going to navigate the website. So there's a science to that, a design. You want it to be usable, clear. You want it to be in the same position on every page, and you want it to exist on every page. And you want the size to be appropriate. So if you look at the way I did mine, I just used little icons here with some rollovers. I'll show you how to do these rollovers in another tutorial, but they're pretty easy to do. You have to create multiple images, and then you can use the insert rollover in Dreamweaver. So I did images from Photoshop here with these little icons. Now, a couple websites, these are just random websites. I like this one for the colors, because it has a nice monochromatic color scheme with different shades of blue plus some complementary colors to accent the logo and some different text on there. Complementary would be like an orange or yellow shade opposite blue on the complementary color wheel. But if you look at the menu on this site, this looks a little nicer than just your standard run-of-the-mill HTML menu. It's just a CSS. I'll show you how to put that in this tutorial. And then if you get a little fancier, this is another site that just popped up when I was searching for well-designed websites. It's alright, it does have that traditional kind of division tag look, business look. This one has some rollovers. This actually is done with CSS rollovers. They may use images for this, I'm not sure. I'll have to check that out. But it's just another idea. You want to start thinking about what the menu looks like, what yours is going to look like, and then go out there and look at some others on the web and see what you like. This is like a tab navigation, tabs at the top, which kind of is like a metaphor. It mimics something in real life, so you can do that also. That's what icons do also. So let's go back here. I'll just show you kind of briefly how you can set up different menus like I just showed you. Now I'll go ahead and put a link in here. First thing I'll do is highlight this and block quote it so it indents a little bit, so I can see it better. And then I'm going to highlight it and I'll put a link in here. Let's actually say that this is, let's make it all caps, portfolio. Let's highlight it, and then I'll go down here and put a link into portfolio. Remember, all lowercase, no spaces for your links. A lot of issues with sites, making sure that your links match up to exactly what you've named your page, but that shouldn't be a problem if you're using this target method. Sometimes it can be a problem if you resave your index.html. So you can see I've got the standard boring HTML link on there. So it's pretty simple in Dreamweaver to add a CSS rule. You can find it under page properties this time. So instead of going to create a new rule, you can do that if you want, but it's easier just to do modify page properties. Okay. And then you can go to your links, and it's in CSS by default, which is nice. So link font, let's just set this up so we can really see it, and I'll make it bold here. Size, let's make it a little larger. Link color would be if the user has been to the site but not clicked on the link, what would that be? So let's make it a little different. We'll make it a black. And then let's see, rollover links would be basically like the rollover when the user puts their mouse over them. So let's make that sort of a red color, just something that we can really see easily. It doesn't have to look great. Visited links would be if the user has clicked on the page, what would you like that to be? So maybe a gray. And then active links would be the link of the page that you're on. So that one doesn't really matter that much. You may not want to change that one because that might be too much going on. But you need to go ahead and select a color, so I'll select black for that also. And then if you don't want that underline, that standard underline, that's okay as long as your menu is very clear, like the location of it is very clear and you know that it's a menu. What will happen sometimes is if you start taking off the typical properties for links, then you might run the risk of your user not recognizing that it's a link. So you got to be careful about that. In this case, it's pretty obvious that the menu is right there. So I'll click apply, click OK. I'll go ahead and do a file save on that, and then I'll go ahead and preview that in Chrome again. Okay, and you can check that out. You can see, so that's something that takes 5 seconds, and it really improves the look of the website. You can see this site used that exact same thing, and it looks really nice. Looks like a custom little menu designed right here. Not sure what that little symbol is right there, but there's probably a character for that little dotted line that separates it. And then again, mine looks just like theirs does. So what does that look like in Dreamweaver? Well, actually it goes into the code of your document, which is okay because there's not that much of it. But if you would feel more comfortable putting this in your external style sheet, you could do that. What will happen sometimes is you may want links to look different on your different pages, in which case you would be better off putting your links in, or your CSS into the HTML like this does. But you could copy and paste this into your separate style sheet. But this is all it is. It's link, visited, hover, and active. You need to have all 4 of these in, and you need to have them in this order. Dreamweaver takes care of that for you. If it doesn't work, you might double check your code, make sure it's in this order: link, visited, hover, and active. And then here's the font for the A tag. So all that's doing is just applying a CSS rule that's a tag, applies to a certain tag, and that tag is A, and that's your href tag, and it applies your style to that. Okay, so that's the first little example. Let's drop an image in here for the second one, and I'll show you how to put a link in if you want to do that. It's all very simple. You've probably been trying this if you've made it this far. But first thing I would do if I want to put a menu in here, a custom menu, is I would make a note of the size of this division tag on the left. So that's the first thing I'll do is I'll go back to my styles, the left division tag, and it's 200 by 300. So I would go over into Photoshop, and I would do a file new, and I would make it 200 by 300. Now that doesn't mean that you're going to use up the entire 200 by 300 little canvas there, but it ensures that you won't accidentally create something too large for your division tag. Okay, so let's say that this is going to be resume. Whoops, resume. Okay, so you would go ahead and design your menu right here if you would like. I'm holding down the Option key. I'll just copy this a few times, and you kind of get, go ahead and design your menu. Maybe you want a different font, maybe bullets on there, maybe icons. You just use your skills you've learned in Photoshop or another graphics program and build the menu. I'll probably do more with this eventually, but right now you can just kind of get an idea here. I created a new canvas, dropped some text in there, and what I'll do is, let me just highlight this. I'll go ahead and change it to a font that works a little better for a menu. Okay, so let me try just try a simple font. Whatever pops up here will be okay. Okay, that's really simple, but it would create a nice clean look for the menu. Okay, and then what I want to do is, if I work on this for a while, and then I want to go ahead and separate it into different elements, and then put it into Dreamweaver. So I could use the slice tool. If I hold my crop tool down, use the slice tool. I'm not going to use that because I don't want you to get into the habit of using the slice tool just yet. I'm just going to crop it and then export it, and then I would go back and crop the other ones. Now when I crop this, what I want to have basically is I want to have, let's see, I think I have this set to an exact size, so I'll go up here, do unconstrained. So what I'm going to do is just crop it the exact width. New crop tool in Photoshop, I think CS6, kind of interesting. So I'm going to crop it the width of the division tag, but not take every single one of them. I'm going to do them as separate pieces. So I'll hit return, and then I'll just do a file, save for web. Okay, there it is. GIF would work better for this one, obviously. And then I would call this resume, and I might call it link or something. So click save. Back to Dreamweaver. Okay, my second link, I'll delete that, and then I'll go ahead and insert, or I can just drag right here, drop it here. I would say resume link for my alt text. Okay, drop it right here. Now this one, in this case, I'm going to have to take off my block quote because you can see what happens. This is a common problem if you start creating your elements that are larger than your division tag. They just overlap, and that's really not good practice. So I'll go back, take off the block quote for this one right here, and you can see that that fits in just perfectly for my menu. So I could do one after another. If I want to do one after another, I just have to make sure that I put a regular break and not a paragraph after that, and then they'll fit together like a puzzle piece. And then if I want to put the link in, I would just select it, and then you could drag your link target to your page. In this case, I don't have one, so I would type resume.html. Now if you're going to do the rollovers, that's actually up underneath image objects and rollover image. So I would need an original, like my original resume image you see there, plus one that's a different color, and then I could use the rollover image. I'll give you a tutorial on that later on. It is really simple, and it's writes a little bit of JavaScript. So if I preview this one more time, do a file preview in browser, take it back to Chrome, you can see when I move my mouse over it, that's what happens. It's now active. So two different examples here. CSS menu at the top. Probably more usable for you, not necessarily better. You can get a lot fancier images or links with your menu if you use a program like Photoshop or Fireworks, and this just kind of blends it into that background. It ends up looking pretty nice. Remember, this is a site that centers though, so it's going to look different on different monitors. You know, it might look like this on a small monitor and this on a larger one. So anyway, I hope that helps you out. Get you a few tips on starting to make your menu look a little better. I would say for the project that you're working on, the focus is going to be your division tag layout. So that is, you know, how you're going to lay your site out, and you got to make sure that you watch all the tutorials and practice with your division tag layouts. This one has one at the top and then a left and right column. And then if you have time and you want to fool with your menu a little bit more in your links, you know, this is really easy to do, so that's probably what you'd want to do, the CSS menu. Then if you've already used Photoshop and you're a little bit comfortable with it, or Fireworks, then you could put in a little fancier menu. But you don't want to go too fancy with your menu. You can be fancy with your title at the top. You know, you can make that as nice as you want, and, you know, apply some really cool graphics to it. But you don't want to do that with your menu, because that's the usable part of your website. You want to make it clear, easy to read, easy to find, and you know, make sure that your user knows to click on it. So that's it for this video. That's an introduction to the navigation of your website.